Welcome to another episode of LifeMastery with Monica Bay, your hub for mastering every area of your life for total fulfillment. And here she is, your host, the healer in heels herself, Monica Bay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Today, I'm very excited to have two people with me that have lived outside the box. As you know, I'm all about thinking outside the box. So these two have actually lived outside the box, and I'll let them explain really fully what that means. But basically, I have with me Melissa and Stephen Rottenberg, and they have done what most people think is the unthinkable. They have gotten rid of their home, put everything into storage, and you guys can give more information on that, but they got rid of their home, put everything into storage, and decided to travel the world. But not only did they do that, but they've also done this while running a very successful marketing and branding business. Who does that? They did it, and they're going to explain to you all about that now. So welcome to the show, Stephen and Melissa.
Hello. We do have one correction.
Okay.
And it's actually Stephen and Melissa Picanza.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
No, that's okay. You know what? I'm the oddball out. I didn't change my name when we got married, so I just added it on. For professional reasons, I keep Rautenberg.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I get it. All right.
Outside of the box, right? Why Melissa's going to add it on, right?
Yeah, we're gonna stay outside that box. There's nothing wrong with that. Let's do it.
Outside of it. Thanks for having us, Monica. Great to see you again. We go back a little bit, and
yes.
Thanks for the invite on, and we have so much to share. Where do we even start?
Yeah. I was super stoked to be here.
Yeah, me too. And I'm so glad to have you because we met, just so the audience knows, so we met at a friend's dinner party. Shout out to John and Christina Bertino. Boom.
Right.
The agency guy. So we met at their dinner party a few years. How long ago? It was years ago, several years ago. Yeah, not sure how long, but several years ago. And I know my wife and I were sitting there just like enthralled by your story. We were just like, "What? Who does this? This is great."
Since then, the story's added on so much.
Yes. So anyway, I'm just really excited to have you guys here. So let's just jump right into it. First, I mean, let's start. We got a whole lot to get through, but let me know where the idea came from, first of all, to do this, and what that moment was like, and what was the catalyst for that.
Yeah. So I guess it's great to let me give you the Cliff Notes version on how we got to sort of here. I'm originally from New York, and Melissa's from Boston, and we met in San Diego in 2011. I was working at an agency, Melissa was working at an agency, and then as our relationship was developing, we found ourselves at a crossroads with the agencies we were working at the time, where we were both granted the fortunate opportunity of being able to go and explore new opportunities. And so we kind of looked at each other and said, we already have a couple side clients on the side. Why don't we kind of go all in with this lifestyle and live and work together and try to add value and build a branding marketing consultancy, but on our terms, not like an agency model.
And this was actually before we were married.
Yeah,
we were just living with each other. And we kind of looked at each other and said, you got stuff going on, I got stuff going on. Why don't we just mesh those things and see what happens?
All right. Tell your friends to call my friends, and we can be friends.
There you go.
We can do this all week. And so we did that for a few years. And we were, like I said, we were living in San Diego, and we saw some awesome success. We started a podcast. We had gotten married in the interim. We actually eloped in Italy. And then a year later to the day, we renewed our vows in front of our family in San Diego. So we always had this little wanderlust about us.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was April 2017, Melissa, jump in. April 2017, our lease was getting renewed, and
in downtown San Diego.
Downtown San Diego, beautiful apartment overlooking the ballpark. It was amazing. But we sort of looked at each other and said, listen, they're raising our rent, and we've been here for so long. We don't have any kids yet.
Let's just do 6 months and figure out what the next steps are within this 6 months.
Right. So we did a 6-month lease, which led us to October 1st, 2017. And then within that 6-month time period, we basically said, screw it. Let's put everything in storage and let's just go to Europe for a couple months and just see what happens.
See what happens.
Just see what happens.
So first, see what happens.
First of all, that by itself is a major feat, because most people, I mean, a lot of people have dreams of traveling the world, right? They have dreams of like, I would love to see the world. I would love to just travel the world and just do nothing but that. There are a lot of people that have that dream, but there are very, very few that actually do it. And so what was that like with did you have fear? Were there fears that set in when you thought about, I mean, I'm sure there has to be, right? But yeah, explain that a little bit.
See my face right now, right?
I think I had less fears. I think I was just kind of like, you know what, let's just sell our stuff and put the rest of it in storage and go to Europe for a few months and see what happens.
You had done this already once, Melissa, voluntarily, right? Like,
I moved from Boston to San Diego by myself. But remember, I planned that for an entire year. I had all my ducks in a row. And then I got to San Diego and like my life kind of blew up. You know, it was, I say it was like putting a sledgehammer to a glass table, where like my life literally, after a couple of months of being there, because I was like, okay, I have this, I need to do this. This is the time frame I'm going to do it. Da 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 da. And like everything just kind of went in opposite directions when I got there. So we did the opposite this time around and didn't really plan it and just kind of went.
And bought kind of a one-way ticket to Europe and said, well, we have 90 days without getting us, so let's just stretch it to 90 days and again figure it out. And so October 1st of 2017, September 30th, the moving truck came, picked up all of our stuff. We put it into a storage locker. Everything that it fit into like a 5x8 or a 7x9. I mean, a really small locker.
Yeah, we got rid of like everything.
A lot of stuff. And we left. And like you said earlier, Monica, I mean, we were running a business at this point. We had clients and
team members around the world.
Right. We had a team member in the Philippines. We had a team member in the Ukraine. We had team members in Colorado.
UK, Colorado, San Diego.
Wow.
So, in this world of flexibility and you know the internet, we're like, well, as long as there's an internet connection wherever we are staying,
which sounds easy enough,
but it's not always easy in certain countries.
Go
to a country that's 4,000 years old, you know, it's a little bit difficult. Infrastructure isn't what we expect here in America.
Yeah, we learned that when we went to India.
I can absolutely imagine.
Yeah.
So that's really the basis. So we left September 1st and we went to October 1st, excuse me. Yeah, October 2017, we left, and our first flight was to Pittsburgh because we had a client retreat there that we were putting on. And then a couple days later, we flew out of Newark to Rome and started our journey.
Yeah, we started our journey for three months. And then while we were traveling, we said, why don't we just kind of, you know, the new year started and all of a sudden it was 2018 and we were kind of like, I'm not really done yet. What do you want to do? And we were kind of like, let's just keep traveling this year and see how it goes.
You're like, I'm about this life. Let's do it.
Yeah. So if anybody needs any Airbnb recommendations,
I'm sure.
So we had ended up traveling throughout Europe. So mainly Italy and in Germany. And then we came back to the States and East Coast, up and down the East Coast a couple of times. We stayed in Colorado for a little bit over a month. We stayed in Utah for a little bit, Las Vegas for a little bit, San Diego for a little bit. Drove across the country 3 times.
In 6 months.
6 months.
In 6 months. Went back to Europe, went to Ireland, France, Italy, Sardinia, Sicily, all over again. Did the whole loop all over again. And then flew back to the U.S. And anyway, we're here.
And now we live in great state of New Jersey.
So by January, we stopped traveling January 2019. But Stephen has actually traveled quite a bit this year in 2019.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So I mean, that's a lot to do. And so a lot of people are probably thinking right now, like, that sounds like a lot of money. I know that when we were speaking that day that we met, there was some mention of it actually, in certain cases, it being less expensive than having an apartment, right? Did that still end up being the case?
I would say overall, yes. Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the entire year, what we would have paid in rent plus our expenses, we paid less for sure traveling, because the Airbnbs, we stayed in Sicily for 6 weeks for $1,300. Our rent alone was $1,000 more than that a month. So
yeah. Yeah, because
And
you're in San Diego, so that's
Right. No, exactly.
yeah,
And that
very
was kind of our strategy was like, listen, let's take the money that we're spending in our rent and our, like cost of living, and let's use that to go travel,
Mhm.
let's use that to go to places where maybe our money goes a little farther.
Yeah.
Right. So, you go to someplace like Sicily. We were in a remote little location in Sicily where, you can get the most amazing, bottle of wine for €4 or €5.
Oh,
Whereas in
wow.
the States, it's like $24, $25. So like, in the end, I think it all kind of evened out, but it's possible. It's doable. You just
and
have to, I think, be really smart in where you
on top
go.
of like staying where we were in Sicily, we also had a co-working space that we were
did.
working out of as well. So we
Okay.
got to meet the local communities. We got to do work while we were there and be a part of the events in the local communities, which were really cool. Do the podcast from the local communities.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was really important for us is to make sure, obviously, as we're traveling, like we still need to work. We still need to have, again, as we're looking for Airbnbs or places to stay, is there quality Wi-Fi? And we would communicate with the host often about Wi-Fi, about network connectivity. Are there coffee shops nearby? Is there a co-working spot nearby? Like these are the things that we were looking for
Yeah.
just to make sure we can run our business seamlessly, right? And not have big lags. So our clients, again, we're building trust with our clients. They need to trust us. Like we're just not out gallivanting on their dime.
Yeah.
We're not Rockefellers with their pocketbooks, but we're actually still doing what we need to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So did that end up affecting your business at all in a negative or positive way? Do you feel like it affected it at all?
I'd say there was both negative and positive for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that the accessibility of us seemed like we weren't accessible because we were not in one location. Meanwhile, the clients that we had, we were with them all the time. Didn't matter what time of day. Half the time they didn't even know where we were. We just needed to be on the calls.
Yeah.
But for new business, that was hard to bring in because they wanted to know our background, what we were doing, this, that, and the other thing. And I think that the digital nomad lifestyle or the on-the-go lifestyle was scary for some clients, for new clients.
Oh, really?
And we saw that with our pipeline to where, just a truthful moment, our pipeline really dried up while traveling. We weren't meeting the right people, I guess you could say. We were meeting incredible people and amazing individuals that will be with us for forever within our hearts and in our mind. But from a business perspective, we just weren't in the right locations to do the business that we need to do.
Okay.
And I think ultimately that's not something that we had planned. We just figured, well, we can keep doing what we're doing and it's just going to happen. Not, I guess, fully understanding that you need to kind of be in one central location sometimes if you're really going to grow, unless you have a fully automated online business. Which
right.
we do somewhat, but we also don't.
Yeah, and your kind of business, it is also who you know, and being able to make those connections, and then those in-person connections are a lot more strongly held than connections that are made virtually. Certainly.
And so once we decided that we were moving back and we're moving back to the East Coast, Monica, I could tell you there was countless individuals who were so excited at the fact that we're finally going to be in one location. And I think,
in their location, especially.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like, oh my God, you guys are moving back east. And oh my God, you guys, like, it's like all of a sudden, we opened up our calendar and people can now do business with us. So
even though our calendar was open the whole time, but I think it was the perception.
Right. Yeah. Because here we are posting, I don't want to say the best of, it was, we were posting travel photos and this, that, the other thing, and still posting about the work that we were doing. But I think the feeling that just some of our other business associates got, or even, leads got, was that they're off doing they're doing them. They must have some like secret source of income and they don't need us. When in actuality, we wanted to work with them. It just, for some reason, it just didn't pan out that way.
Okay. So it just created basically a kind of a public perception issue that you were, just
all over the place,
traveling and all over the place.
We're a Facebook ad, right? Basically, people thought we were a Facebook ad, on the beach with a laptop making money all day. Where but sure.
When in all actuality, a lot of our travel was even based around work. There were workshops, there was Steven teaches at Drexel University. There were workshops on the East Coast and the West
I
Coast.
teach in Italy.
He teaches in Italy. We run a mentorship with one of the colleges in Rome. We met with some clients or some partners in France. So
a lot of this was based on just appearances that we needed to have to strengthen relationships. And that's what kind of kept this travel thing kind of going. Well, I thought, I'm teaching in Italy, let's go back to Italy. Or I'm teaching in Drexel, let's go back to Philadelphia for 4 weeks or 5 weeks or whatever it is. And it just kept going. And like one thing kept going on until Melissa kind of looked at each other and we're like, I'm done. I'm out. Like, I don't want to do it anymore. I want to go home.
Yeah. And when you say, I want to go home and you don't actually have a place to go home to.
Yeah, that's the scary part.
That was pretty exhausting after a little while, but,
and that's the unthinkable part that I was referring to earlier, is because a lot of people, like some people, like I say, a lot of people want to travel the world. And then there's some people that actually do travel the world, but they don't get rid of their actual home to do so.
Right.
So that's like, that's why my wife and I were just like floored at the whole concept. And we're like, and you actually helped us think a little differently, like, okay, let's think outside the box about our living arrangement. No, we're not going to give up our home, but maybe we can live in another country for several months and see what that's like. You actually inspired us. I forgot to tell you this. You actually inspired us to get a second home in Montreal.
Wow.
And in 2017 and 2018, actually, that was right after we met. Yeah. And so since we moved to Atlanta now, we got rid of that home, but that was what inspired us to kind of just go out and see what it's like to live in another country for a little bit. And that wasn't too far away, so it worked out.
Right.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So my advice for anybody who wants to do this is, you just really need to be prepared for the bumps, and it isn't just all about the beaches or, whatever it might be. There's a lot of turbulence that comes with traveling all the time and being in the right place. Things don't always go as you plan. Rarely ever when you travel do things go as you plan. So,
and I think as Americans, we have this lap of luxury that we travel, that we have imprinted in our mind. And when you go to a different country where their norm is not our norm, it could be uncomfortable. And so a big saying that we had between Melissa and I was just getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. Right? Like,
yes.
There are, the shower's cold and it's leaking, suck it up, take a shower. You know what I mean? Like, these things are going to happen. Oh, there's no lift and you have to walk 89 steps up to your apartment every time. You're going to have to do that. Like, that's just what the locals do. Who are we to think any differently that we're above that? And so as traveling, I think it's made us really humble and even empathetic in that sense, to where I don't know. I think I get it more, right? And it doesn't have to always go as planned and be rainbows and butterflies. But like Melissa said, those bumps in the road, that's all part of the experience. It's part of the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so with those bumps in the road, what would you say the biggest obstacles were for you? If you had to narrow it down to just a few, what were the biggest obstacles for you for this whole entire lifestyle that you were living?
Sometimes we had to live in a studio apartment with each other, and
that was challenging.
I like the space of 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. It definitely, the internet for sure was a big one. That was huge.
I think, we spent a majority of the time, especially internationally, living in Italy, and they just go to a different beat of their own drum. So like, how do you fold yourself into, we don't want to go against the grain, right? You want to ingrain yourself in that lifestyle and in that fabric, but sometimes that's difficult to ingrain yourself in that fabric because it's it's against what you're used to.
Yeah.
So, that was challenging sometimes. It was challenging sometimes when we wanted to go eat dinner, but none of the restaurants are open until 8:30 at night. Like little things like that.
And we had a meeting at 8:30 back in States.
Right. So it's like, oh, well.
Zone, yeah.
Yeah. Like little, I mean, it's silly to say, but like little things like that of just just going with the flow of where you're at can sometimes seem against of your own norm from what you're used to. But if you're willing to, I think, break down those walls and just accept what's going to happen, right? It's not and put the emphasis on how you deal with what happens to you, then I think you're going to be fine. You're set up for travel. But if you go to a different land expecting it to be like how it is in Atlanta or New Jersey and things are just going to work, well, no.
Yeah.
No, this is Sicily, this is Italy, this is France, this is wherever. Things don't work the way you think. This is how it works here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the hardest things we went through, at least for me, was we were in a car accident when we were in Italy, and the car was totaled, and we were an hour away from the rental space, and I mean, we got concussions, and we should have gone to the hospital, but we didn't. I didn't go to the hospital until a couple of weeks later to get a head scan, when I was like, this headache's not going away, this concussion's not going away. I didn't even know concussions could last that long. And like we said earlier, we just wanted to go home at that point. But we had literally blocked our schedule for the end of the year. This was in September of 2018, and we didn't settle back down in one place until January of 2019. So we still had 4 months to go, and not being in one place to actually deal with going to physical therapy or going to the doctor or whatever it might be. That was really, really, really challenging. And I mean, I think 2 days after the accident, we were on a flight to France. And, you know, 3 days later back. And then a week after that, we were down in Milan, and then we took a train to Rome, and then we were down in Molise, and then we were back in Rome, and then we flew to Sicily, and then we did a 2-hour bus ride in Sicily. And that when you're exhausted, but you've planned all of these obligations, that was really challenging.
So what did you have to do from an internal standpoint in order to kind of get yourself to just finish it through with and not just kind of give up on it? Yeah. What did you have to go through internally and intellectually and all of that to do that?
Melissa and I kept making these little mini milestones.
I was just going to say literally one day at a time.
And like we would say, like, especially after the car accident, literally it was that night we kind of looked at each other, like basically in tears, saying like, can we go home? Like, I just want to go home. And we didn't have a home. We had so much ahead of us. We're coming out to it was like, let's just get through, you know, my parents coming and going to back to my dad's town. Let's just get back to the States. And when we're back in the States, let's just make it through my class at Drexel and get back down to Florida for Thanksgiving. Let's just make it back to San Diego and get through the holidays. And there was like these little mini miles, because it could just seem like this just tremendous mountain to climb. And it's overwhelming, and it, you know, makes you anxious. It gives you anxiety if you think about that giant mountain. But if break it down into these little micro steps, right? These little micro milestones.
And I think that's a great metaphor for just life in general. I mean, you think about all the things you want to do when you have your whiteboard or your sticky notes or all your plans inside of your head, and you're thinking, I want to do this by the time it's 2022. But don't think about 2022. You got to think about today.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
All the steps in between.
The 3 things I need to do right now. And when it comes to being in the middle of a conundrum like we were in, that mindset really comes in handy. If you've always been practicing that, or you've been practicing that for a long time, this is where my practice comes into play.
Yeah.
This is where we have to remember, it's not about what happens to us. It's about, you know,
how we get through it,
how we deal with what happens.
Yeah. And your reactions and your mindset and perspective on the whole entire situation.
Today was the 1-year date that we actually started our first cross-country road trip back to the East Coast. And it was like, to me, this is a big milestone because I had never driven cross-country, but like you know, symbolism is everything, and I must be really big into symbolism because like the 1-year anniversary, I'm like, oh, Melissa, you know what today was? And she's like, no. And she was, I don't think it mattered to her as much as it did to me, but like this was the start of us driving for almost like the second leg, because once we drove across country for the first time last July, then we went back to Europe, and then the car accident, and then my other class, and it was like we split our trip kind of into 2. This was like the start of the second leg, and I remember driving across the country, and Melissa and I were like excited, but at the same time we were also kind of tired at this point, and we had so much ahead. And I remember telling Melissa as we were driving across the country, just think about when we're driving the opposite way after Thanksgiving. Do you remember that? I kept saying it. Just think about us listening to Christmas music, driving from Florida to San Diego after Thanksgiving. This is July that we're having this conversation. Again, it was like all these little milestones that I think we just kind of put up just to help us get through it.
Wow. So we talked a lot about the kind of the negative aspects. I know that there were a lot of positive aspects to this. So let's get into that a little bit so we can kind of, show the well-roundedness of this. So what were the best things about, this decision that you made? What was the best thing about this lifestyle?
Oh my God. So many. Number one, my passport is full of stamps, so that's cool, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
The world seems so much smaller. I think that limitations are less, I mean, I have less limitations on myself. Things just seem so much more reachable, no matter where they are, or who they are, or, locations or goals, things like that. It's like, okay, we might have been in a bad place when we finally got to New Jersey in January 2019, but there was nothing that could stop us. I mean, it was like the lowest that we could have gotten. Like,
I've been.
Yeah. And there was no place else to go but up. And since there, it's kind of like, I mean, now we're like almost back at the top of the mountain again, feeling great. I've gone to physical therapy. My body feels great. I've met so many cool people. I think one of the coolest things that happened while we were traveling, Stephen, and I think that you could attest to this, is we had literally attracted the people that we wanted to attract. I mean, like, our energy that we put out there in different countries was the right energy, because we were meeting all these people that we still have really great relationships with.
That's awesome.
We were in Sicily over the holidays in 2017 into 2018, and we met this amazing couple that one of them, we were at the co-working space that we were at, Impact Hub Siracusa. Just got to give a shout out to them. They were absolutely amazing. But they invited us back to their house for Christmas Eve, and we were sitting around the table with 15 different people, all sharing stories with 5 or 6 different languages. Some of us
English, Sicilian, French,
German.
And some German, yeah.
Right. And so we were
singing
all
songs till 3 a.m.
Singing songs together till 3 a.m. Like, we had all known.
People still do that?
We're singing the Beatles, Let It
That's
Be.
funny.
I remember we have it on video. The Beatles, Let It Be, because they had guitars and a piano, and like a little experience like that. Like, that would never have happened if we never got out of our comfort zone, to the point where, like, now, like Melissa said, we went back to the same place and hung out with them, and like
a year later,
like, oh, nice,
good friends. Like, it was unbelievable.
Understanding who you attract out there in the world. I mean, if you stay in the same places and do the same things and go to the same conventions or stick around the same groups, then you always have the same people that you're around. And it was just so nice to see that, oh, like, this is who I attract, and I really like these people, and these are like my people.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That was big confidence boost, because I think, as you're traveling, it could be especially, entrepreneurship is lonely AF to begin with sometimes. Right? Let's just call it what it's worth.
It is.
Being a digital nomad, quote unquote digital nomad, could be lonely in itself, right? And now that, when you put yourself out there and you just kind of allow yourself to be open to meet these people, or just allow yourself to be open, like that was truly, I think, one of the most magical things. And it happened in every country.
Every single country we went to, every location that we were in, we would go to either a co-working space or a coffee shop or a bar or a restaurant, and we were just open. And sometimes we would have conversations with people in half English, half Italian, not really even understanding. The lady who owned the place that we stayed at in Sicily, we sat down with her for 3 hours at a coffee shop, twice actually. and one time for like 2 hours, one for 3 hours, and talk to her the whole time about life, liberty, the pursuit to happiness, lemons,
Lemon.
Local bread, food.
local bread, food, and
Uh-huh.
she didn't speak a lick of English, and I don't really speak that much Italian, and Stephen has broken Italian
I'm right
English
in the
going
middle.
on. But we were there for 3
But you
hours
made it work.
nonstop talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to this day, she still WhatsApps us, ciao amici, como
Aw.
sta?" Like that was pretty incredible. And I think also from a business perspective,
Mm-hmm.
it really highlighted where we need to be and what we need to do and the value we're bringing. Because when we left, we were gung ho with our podcast, and we were, putting out digital products, and I had a course, and we were doing all this stuff, mastermind and all this stuff. And
Mhm.
Which I still love.
which I love, and we
Yeah.
still do. But I think by traveling, it just realized that's not where I'm the most. We're the most happiest. We're people. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like I wanna not. I don't wanna. I'm not gonna. It's gonna sound wrong, but I want to touch you. I want to.
See
like,
you. Sit
Yeah,
down
yeah.
and have a coffee with
Human
you.
connection. Yes.
Human connection.
Yes.
And no matter how digital we get, I don't
There's
ever want to
nothing that
abandon
beats that.
There's nothing
No,
that.
I agree 100%. Yeah. And it's interesting. So you guys were talking about, meeting a lot of people and speaking a lot of different. So what languages do you speak now that you've traveled everywhere? What stuff have you, not that you're fluent in all of them, but what languages have you picked up on? I'm just curious.
Italian.
Italian.
Yeah,
Like
I
mostly.
actually what actually kicked this off in the first place was because I was taking Italian lessons in San Diego, and their sister school in Tuscany. They have a sister school in Tuscany, and I won a scholarship.
Okay.
So I went and studied in Tuscany for just a couple of weeks, and that was just kind of it. I mean, I can hear and maybe say a few things, but
Mhm.
for the most part, when I try to speak Italian, people speak English back to me.
Same thing with me in French. They're like, no.
Right. Good try, but
Yeah. But we know.
right. But
Yeah.
Wah, wah.
So I would say from a language perspective, I mean, yeah, just mostly Italian. When we went to Germany, I think Melissa was able to
Pick up a few things.
Melissa's German, and I'm not German by any.
Okay.
She was able to pick up a word or two here, but that's a difficult language.
That's a good one.
In Ireland, they speak English, so that was
Yeah.
Ireland was amazing. We had an awesome time in Ireland, and if you've never been, it probably literally is the most magical place I've ever been to. It was awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I was going to ask, what was your favorite place why don't we take it in two different parts? What was your favorite place to live, and what was your favorite place to work?
Oh God. Colorado is absolutely amazing, and I know that
Really?
sounds ridiculous, but
Love
Hey,
Colorado.
we have a beautiful country.
we stayed in Divide, Colorado, which is 9,500 feet up, and in elevation, in a tiny little town, 127 people in a small area next to a lake. So we were just in a cabin. So when we left the cabin, we had no service whatsoever. The only time we had service was when we were there. I couldn't call anybody. I mean, it literally just said like nothing.
Mm.
It was absolutely gorgeous. And Sicily.
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 Yeah.
The food, the people, the food.
I mean,
The food. Yes. Foodies, are you?
I'm instantly for me, it's. I mean, because I'm Italian, and my father's from Italy, and my mother's grandparents were Italian. So, like for me, anything Italy, but especially when we went down to the south, and I think a big part of our travel was, so my father immigrated when he was like 17 to the United States, and he's from a small town. And while he'd been back to Italy numerous times, he had never been back to his hometown
in 54 years.
in like 54 years.
Wow.
And so now that he's in, the twilight of his life, us going back, I kind of was like, let's go. We're doing this. So I talked my parents into coming.
Oh, nice.
And my sister. And we all went back to my dad's town for the first time. And this is a town that unfortunately was destroyed in 2001 during an earthquake. Many of my cousins died because the elementary school fell, and it was a disaster. But going back to this town opened up relationships that I don't think we would have ever had. And it was so amazing that we did it again the next year. So like, while we were all traveling, like it was also a story of like bringing my dad back to kind of close out like that huge hole in his life, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Going
Yeah.
back.
By the way.
What?
I just got super emotional about that, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But like, so it was amazing. Like that was part of the experience, was like redemption on his part, us traveling. Like there was so much going on throughout the whole thing that Melissa and I are now in the process of, I think, finally being able to look back on it and not look back on it in a way that we can try to make sense and somehow try to tell this story, because there's three stories. There's the business story of how a husband and wife team can keep a business, you know, while doing all that crazy stuff. There's the story of just like travel, right? Like a nomad. And then there's a story of my dad's story and bringing him back to his town, and me experiencing this town that I heard about for 37 years, and a town that Melissa's heard about since the day she met my father, because all he talks about is that damn town. So all these things that just sort of within those 16 months of traveling, it all just boiled to the top and came out. Like it was, it was incredible.
6 months later, I don't think that we have fully had time to really take it all in. Even 6 months later, there's still so much unfolding. And I think forever there's going to be lessons that are going to come out of this.
Yeah. And that leads me to my next question, because I wanted to know, because I believe everything happens for a reason. So what impact do you believe that this is going to have with everything that you've gone through with this, you know, with this lifestyle and the impacts that it's had on your life path? What do you believe those impacts are or will be?
Whew. I don't know if we'll even really know.
Yeah.
Well, I think first and foremost, it just goes to show that, I mean,
we're not afraid to take risks.
We're not afraid to take risks, but it's also like the world isn't as big as sometimes people make it out to be, right?
That's
like,
true.
You know, we all have family members that maybe won't come visit us, you know, or we have family members, oh, well, I don't want to drive that far, I don't want to fly that far. But like, when you think about it, like you're not getting on a horse and buggy and taking you 5 weeks to go across the Oregon Trail, 5 months, or whatever it is. So like, I think it goes to show that like, if you want to be flexible, you could be flexible.
You can be.
You can be adaptive, you know, and you can create, you know, it's possible for anyone. And I think that like, that's something I'm going to take with me forever, is that like, I'm trying to say this in the most like politically correct way, but I'm not buying your BS story that you're telling yourself and why you can do things, right? Like it's possible if you truly want it, and you can think about it in a way to where you're not self-sabotaging yourself.
Yeah, and a lot of people do that, and they talk themselves out of, and you know, waiting for all the lights to be green and saying, I'll do this when. And there's so many people that wait to travel until, I'll travel when I retire. You know how old you're going to be when you retire?
You know how hard it is to
Your knees might not work. You know,
Right.
Yeah, you know how hard it is to travel when you're like 20s and 30s, never mind in your 60s.
Right. But it's with anything, right? Like you said, Monica, waiting for all the lights to turn green. I'll start a business later, or I'll do this later. I'll do this later. But like, what if there is no later for you? I mean, we don't know, right? And so perhaps this has also kind of taught us that, you know, you only live once, so make it count.
Yeah, especially with that car accident. It was like, dang, you know, like, this could have been so much worse. I mean, we got up and we walked away, and sure, we had some bumps and bruises for months to come, but we got up and we walked away. Why?
Right.
You know, we're here for a reason, and there's a purpose for it. And it wasn't my first total car accident. So for me, it was even more huge. Like, I'm here for a reason. Like, there's some stuff that might be out of alignment. And that's to sit me down and say, look, chill, relax, and like, enjoy what you're doing. Take things day by day and go with it. But
don't
Yeah.
overcomplicate. I think
there's so many lessons to be learned, and I've learned so many already, but there's so many more that'll just continue to unfold as time
Oh, yeah.
passes.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, having an experience like that you guys have had is just, there's no way you can't have lessons to be learned from that, and things that you take with you forever. You know, those certain lessons that you've learned, and ideas that you've gotten along the way, the people that you've met along the way, new perspectives that you've gained. It sounds like you guys have definitely gained new perspectives from this experience, for sure.
Yeah, I want to jump off of what Steven said about the limitations in that BS story. And
Yeah.
I think that it's really helped me be a little bit more patient with people, you know, because people do put shackles and chains on themselves and limitations on themselves. And it's gotten me to be like, well, you know what, that's just kind of what they're doing. You know, I mean,
Mhm.
I can't make anybody do anything crazy like I've done. I can't make anybody
Yeah.
go an hour from their home if they want to go an hour from their home, if they don't want to go an hour from their home, when, you know, I might travel 16 hours to get someplace. Like, people are just different, and people put
Exactly.
their own limitations on themselves. And sometimes that's just where they're happy.
Yeah. Yeah. What I hope that this episode does is, piggybacking off of what you just said, is to, not to say everyone that's listening needs to go and, sell their
Okay.
house and travel the world and do all of that. But hopefully this helps people think outside the box.
Yeah.
To possibly, different lifestyle options that they can have. Maybe take a little piece of that. Like I said, you guys inspired us to, get a second home in another country for a year and a half. And we did that, and it was a great experience. And I would not take that, back. That was an excellent experience. So just hearing your story gave us that one day of meeting you guys, gave us that, push to do something. So I'm hoping that, the listeners will, just think of different things that you can do to make your life more exciting, more, happier, that you're not shackled to a place, you're not shackled to a location, especially in the society that we live in today with the technology that we have. And if you happen to be a home-based business, and you can be mobile, maybe you want to think about enjoying life a little while you're working. I know that when I left corporate America, and this was, I think when we met you, this was right when we were kind of trailing off on our travels. But when I left corporate America, that's one of the first things we did, was we just traveled the world while I was working. Still had a home base though, but just traveled the world because, working full-time in corporate America as an executive, I wasn't able to take vacations. Right. Really. Sure, I had vacation time, but I didn't ever take it. So I was like, no, I'm gonna see the world. And I knew I wanted to do that while I'm young, because who knows, what my knees are going to be like when I'm 60 or 70. So yeah, I hope that the listeners, all of you listen. I hope you get something out of this, and that you really think outside the box. Think about living outside the box. Think about doing different things, and not always so much in the straight and narrow of what everyone else is doing. Because a lot of times you find the most exciting and adventurous experiences and enlightening experiences when you are living outside the box.
And I think what's great is, live inside the box, outside the box. You could even say screw the box, right?
Yes, there is no box.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no box. You make your own box. And
yeah, exactly.
I gave a talk of one of my talks I did a while ago, was talking about the idea of F the ladder, right? Everyone's trying to climb this corporate ladder. Well, screw the ladder, make your own ladder, right? You can make your own, whatever. You can make a ladder that's 17 steps, one step, whatever it is. Same goes with the box. Like, you don't have to subscribe to the
circle, and you could just be rolling around.
Right, you could be fluid, right? You could be
one thing to the next thing.
But and I think what I'm just trying to say is, like, everyone has these ideas of success, right? Success, you got to follow this path, right? You got to follow.
Yeah.
Doctor, you got to do this. You got to, blah, blah, blah. Like, for so many people, for us entrepreneurs, for us creatives, for us people who are into manifesting our own destiny, it's designing our own life. And we were talking about the I was reminded about the 4-Hour Work Week, right? And from Tim Ferriss.
Yeah.
I read that
Excellent
a
book.
decade ago.
Yeah.
When it first came out. But like, that's all he talked about was just designing your own life, right? The making whatever works for you. Do that. Like, why are you not doing what makes you happy? And why are you not doing what you know? And that was the hardest thing, I think, for my parents to understand, right? Because they came from the traditional world of, well, you got to go to college and then you got to get a job and, you know, we'll see you at retirement kind of deal. And I did everything against that, right?
Yeah.
Like, whatever you told me to do, I did the complete opposite. And I think it's finally now that they understand and are able to see that, you've designed, you know, you what you said you wanted in your life is what you were able to design. And trust me, it hasn't been easy and it hasn't been
without its
struggles,
struggles,
Yeah.
but and I
that's
think
life.
but I'm happy.
Yeah.
to roll off of that, you don't even have to, you can have your corporate job at the same time. And if you're dreaming about doing something else, you don't have to leap from the job and go do that today. You just have to take one step in the right direction. And this comes back to, you know, how we felt. Just take it day by day.
Yeah, definitely. So my last question, what what does life mastery mean to you, and what does that look like in your life?
I mean, that mastery word is a big word.
Yeah, it is.
Right? And I think everyone has their own definition of what mastery is. I think what Webster's dictionary is 10,000 hours practicing the same discipline, and that gets you proficient or mastering whatever skill that is. But I think for me, life mastery is going back to that life that we design, right? It's living my truth, right? Living my true north, living my purpose, living my ethos, insert whatever word you want to insert there. But whatever that burning desire is in my soul and in my heart, is staying true to that. And if I'm staying true to that, then I'm mastering my own life. It has nothing to do with my bank account or how many houses I own or cars or anything. I could be living on a cardboard box on the street, but if I'm content with myself and that's what I want to do, and I'm sticking to my convictions and I'm living and mastering my life.
Okay. Very good. Very good.
You took my answer. No. Honestly,
I cheated.
Yeah, you cheated.
I looked off of your sheet.
Just look on my sheet.
You did. What'd you get for number 5, Melissa?
Number 5, life mastery. I think it's living in accordance with yourself and how you feel. And I have these like burning desires and I have these gut feelings. And when I go against them, it makes me sweat. And I don't want to sweat. So unless, you know, I'm purposely working out or something, but I don't want to sweat because of regrets or because I wish I did something and didn't do it and I didn't go towards something or said like, damn it, I knew it. I knew that I knew I should have done that. You know, I mean, if you feel something so intensely, you have to go towards that because that to me is mastering your own life. Sometimes I've done things, I don't even know why the heck I've ever done them. You know, it wasn't until like maybe a couple of years later that I realized what the purpose of that was. But at the time, it was something that I felt I needed to do. And to piggyback off of what Steven said about his family not really understanding him, I've never been understood. I've always been told to come down from the clouds, stop being such a dreamer, get your stuff together, you know. And meanwhile, I had this vision up here in my head that was all together. And even if nobody else saw that vision or if nobody else understood why I was doing what I was doing, I felt that this was the right thing for me to be doing. And it wasn't, you don't need other people's approval, and being within your own self and being happy with yourself. And we all have mountains to climb within our own self. But for me, as long as I'm doing what I feel internally is right, then I can get over anything else.
Yes, excellent. Great answers. I love it. I love it. Very insightful. And I agree with both of you on both of those topics. Definitely. So, how can people find you? About, talk a little bit about your business for a second, and then, tell us how the audience can find you and learn more about what you have going on.
Yeah, awesome. So Melissa and I run a branding and marketing consultancy called Latin and Code, and essentially we help businesses streamline their messaging and create awesome marketing materials so you can connect with your audience. And then part of our business, though, is we also, and you mentioned it earlier with our mutual connection, John Bertino, we're also advisors with an organization called The Agency Guy, where we will help to match make your brand with the perfect marketing agency at no charge. There's just so much smoke and mirrors with marketing, and the barrier to entry is so low that choosing the right marketing agency can be an absolute nightmare. So
Challenge.
we want to make it as simple as possible. So
we take our day-to-day experience and the expertise that we've had for over a decade and help other companies figure out the right marketing, because not every company understands marketing, understands branding, and and what they actually need.
Right.
So.
And you can reach us. So 2 websites. We're going to give you latinandcode.com at LATINANDCODE.com, or you can reach us at theagencyguy.com. Or if you just Google our names, I think we've done a really good job of personal branding. You're going to get a ton of stuff that comes up. There's only one of me, but there's 2 Melissas out there. So make sure you find the right one.
Yes.
I'm in the US. I think she's in Canada.
Ah.
Okay. Okay, so just remember, the right Melissa is in the U.S.
Right. You can miss her, though.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being on the show. I'm sure the audience got a lot out of everything that you had to share. I think you guys have an amazing story, and I wish you all, a lot of luck in everything that you're doing. And I know you're going to have future travels as well, but now you do have a home base.
Right.
And
for now.
Yeah, for now. We'll see if you guys do that. So sorry, last question. Would you do it again?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Although I would
again already.
Yeah. Although I would have a home base, and I wouldn't do it for 16 months.
Okay.
Not straight. Yeah, I wouldn't do this exact thing. It's funny. When I was 23, backpacked through Europe for 6 weeks. It was an amazing experience. I would never do that again, but I'm so grateful I did that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But like it's each time it gets better. So to say what Melissa said, 100% would go live in a different country for a little bit, but we're keeping a steady address.
Okay, good. And I know that your business is going very, very well. And I will be tapping you guys too, because I'm going to be revamping my website and need some assistance on messaging. So we'll be talking. But anyway,
we're always here.
All right, awesome. So thank you guys so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it and enjoyed it.
Thanks you.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao. For more information, go to my website at monicabay.com.